Today on Comicstorian, it's time for Spider-Man, the Miles Morales one, to get a new costume. This is the Comicstorian channel where I take some of your favorite trade paperbacks and single issues. I break them down into digestible bites, cutting out a lot of the fluff and getting right to the point. The idea behind this is to bring you a synopsis of the comic book, giving you the general idea of what's going on, but it allows you to go to your local comic book store and pick up the issues for more context and artwork, or go to your digital retailer and add to your collection. All alterations to the panels, text, and images are to prevent copyright problems, and all art is owned by its respective companies. Today we're going to be covering Miles Morales issues 30, 31, and 32. When we last left off with Miles Morales, his uncle Aaron had passed on, and then he discovered that a man known as the Assessor had run tests on him and created clones. After defeating two of the clones, he ended up teaming up with the last one, and the two of them are now brothers, basically. And that leads us to our next story. All of those adventures are behind Miles now. And today, Miles had a good feeling. He found out that he was a finalist for a writing scholarship, got some new threads after his last ones got shredded, and on top of that, he finally got a text from Starling, and he's got a date tonight. What could go wrong? After hearing a scream coming from downtown, Miles realizes that is a question that really shouldn't have been asked. Before he could even ask what's going on, he's shot by a laser from a man piloting a mandroid armor. After the man inside attacks him again, Miles quickly webs the suit up, slowing it down enough to give himself an opening for a venom blast. The suit begins to fall apart, and the man inside yells that this isn't right. And Miles asks, "What's not right?" The man begins to shout, "It's Taco Gong! They're using frost giant meat in their tacos after the War of the Realms! Google it!" Miles sighs, telling him that he doesn't have time for crazy conspiracy theories, especially not about tacos. So after webbing the man up, Miles sets off back home to freshen up for his date when he hears another cry for help. This time it's two girls who are walking their dog because their dog escaped. They tell him that they have to be home in 10 minutes and they can't find Bubba anywhere. So Miles looks around, checking all of the usual places, asking the usual questions when suddenly he spots a dog lying in the park. He tosses over a treat, luring the dog over, and after bringing him to the little girls, they shout that it's him. Now finally, with no one screaming for help, Miles heads to his date, landing on a rooftop, panting. "I came as quickly as I could. I didn't have time to go home and change, but..." Starling yells, "Spider-Man!" Or should I say Miles? Miles tells her, "Keep it down! I was on my way and I got caught up with some things." She laughs at him. Same. And you know what? It's all good. As the two share a kiss, there's someone watching through a scope, and then the rifle begins to lower, and behind the lens is the glowing eyes of Taskmaster. Later, Miles and Starling sit down to have their date night pizza when suddenly Miles' spider sense goes off. He pushes Starling, telling her to get down when an arrow shoots by, grazing his arm. More arrows begin to rain down, and the two nimbly dodge them, with Miles telling her that he's sorry. "People trying to kill me happens a lot." She grabs her blaster, telling him that he knows that this isn't happening tonight, right? He calls out to the person shooting to show themselves, but Taskmaster sticks to the shadows, continuing to shoot arrows at the two of them. After taking another hit to the leg, Starling grabs Miles and begins to fly away, but then they both notice an arrow that was shot wide on purpose. His spider sense begins to scream in his head when suddenly that arrow explodes, blasting the two of them to the ground. Miles manages to get back to his feet, helping Starling up, stating that they shouldn't keep running. "Who's out there? Show your face!" Taskmaster steps out. Fine, but it ain't pretty." Miles tells him that he knows something like this isn't just for kicks. "Who's paying you?" And Taskmaster tells him, Now, can't violate client confidentiality." Starling grabs her blaster and begins to fire, chasing Taskmaster down, but as Miles goes to get help, Taskmaster throws his shield, bouncing it back and forth, keeping Miles away. Taskmaster tells him, "Come on! If Spider-Man can't catch up with me, what's a kid gonna do?" Taskmaster then looks back at Starling as Miles jumps in, hitting Taskmaster with a venom blast, knocking him away. Miles lands, telling him, "This is the end. Now, you're gonna tell me who put a price tag on my head." Taskmaster asks, "You?" No. I'm after her." After pressing a button, a large drone ship flies down, and before either Miles or Starling could do anything, it begins to sound off a loud siren and flashes bright lights. The two fall, and Taskmaster says, "That's loud, huh? And those lights, unless you got special earplugs and lenses, that can be a doozy. Anyway, time is money and I gotta collect." After getting Starling into his drone, it takes off, and Miles manages to web up onto it to carry him. But Taskmaster grabs his webbing. "Almost, kid." And he cuts it. Miles shouts for him to wait as he tumbles onto a nearby building, unable to move from all of these injuries. After a short recovery, Miles tries to get back up and chase after him, but as he wanders through the streets, 2 EMTs see him and ask what's wrong. Miles tells them that he doesn't have time, he has to, and then he screams out in pain as the EMTs help him to their ambulance, telling him, "You can't save anyone if you can't walk, Spider-Man. We all need help sometimes." They patch him up, and he tells them that he needs to make a quick phone call if he's going to be needing help. He dials, and Ironheart answers. "Yo, what's good, Spider-Man?" Miles tells her that he needs help finding someone. They were kidnapped, and they were attacked by a mini aircraft with flare lights that were used to stun them. Ironheart looks through the city, stating that she is scanning for any recent halogen flares, and she's matching them, and got it! But you're not gonna like this part. Miles makes his way over to the bridge and sees a barge sailing by and says that Riri was right. He isn't going to like this. How is he supposed to get onto a ship that has already set sail? Think. Wait, when he fought Mind Spinner launched him into the air with a controlled venom blast on the Brooklyn Bridge. So he sits back, letting his blast charge up, and after a few moments, he rockets into the air over the water, crash landing onto the barge. He begins to state that he made it, but Taskmaster lunges at him. "Yeah, you made it, but I don't have time for this. I'm on a schedule, Spider-Man." Miles doesn't let up, though, and Taskmaster tells him, "I have fought Spider-Man long enough to know how to get around that stupid sense of yours. Gotcha?" After being stabbed in the shoulder, Miles falls back with Taskmaster asking him, "How's your arm? Paralyzed? I cooked up something after seeing that venom blast earlier and used a little Daredevil action with it." Just then, Starling calls out, tackling into Starmaster as he asks her, "You got free, huh? Those wings of yours might be bulletproof, but a sword could cut right through them." After hacking away at her wings, everyone falls to the ground when they hear an alarm go off. And Miles asks, "Wait, is that your phone alarm?" "Crap, time's up. This was a very specific contract. Delivery by midnight or null and void. My phone was set to hyper-precise ETA calculations. There's no way to make it to the client with all this time wasted. But hey, now you don't have to worry about me coming again. There's no profit." Taskmaster spreads his cape as it transforms into wings and he flaps them, taking off. Miles tells Starling that he can't let him get away. Starling says that her wings are torn up. They don't have much choice. At that moment, there's a rumbling sound and a flying stretch SUV lands on the ship. "Hey, unknown individual operating in an unlicensed capacity under the trademarked name Spider-Man." The man hands Miles a stack of papers stating that they represent the Beyond Corporation in legal matters. This notice is to inform him that by operating as Spider-Man, he is violating their client's legally owned trademark. By law, Miles is required to relinquish the use of Spider-Man and the likeness immediately. Starling asks, "What is this nonsense?" And Miles tells her, "I don't know, but you better believe I'm gonna go find out." So there you have it, Miles' brand new uniform, his girlfriend, and he's currently being sued for being Spider-Man. If you want to know what that's all about, check out our Spider-Man Beyond series, because the Beyond Corporation now owns the likeness of Spider-Man, and Ben Reilly is being Spider-Man, and I'm enjoying that series, but a lot of people aren't. But either way, they're now suing Miles. So very soon we're going to bring you the episode in which Spider-Man fights against Miles, coming up very soon, because they got to figure out who owns the actual likeness. If you want to see that video, make sure you like, subscribe, and stick around right here at the Comicstorian channel, because we're going to be bringing it to you very soon. Spider-Man all day, every day, baby. Here we go. I'll see you guys next time right here.